This morning is Psalm 23. I'll be reading from the English Standard Version. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Today I'm continuing with the theme that I began last week, which is favorite psalms for a stressful time. It will come as no surprise to you that I've chosen the 23rd Psalm for today's sermon. To give you a sense of how much this psalm is appreciated, the Presbyterian hymnal, which we use, has a total of 6 versions of the 23rd Psalm. No other psalm comes close. The 23rd Psalm is a personal song of trust spoken by an individual. Thus it begins, "The Lord is my shepherd." It's helpful when we study a portion of Scripture to look at all the verbs and list them. Listen to the verbs that are in the 23rd Psalm, all of which speak of what the Lord does. He makes me lie down. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness. You are with me. You prepare a table. You anoint my head. That's a long list of verbs, and any of them deserves our time and attention. The one that has drawn me this week is this one, restores. The Lord restores. He restores my soul. I've had that experience. I hope that you have too. God knows we often need restoration. Restoration is fitting and necessary when something wears out. Something that matters to us is not what it used to be. Imagine an old car, a 1956 car, so beautiful when it emerged from the factory, but now it's showing its age. It will take a lot of effort to bring it back. But it can be restored, and so can a human soul. Do you believe that? The psalm reminds us that the Lord can do the painstaking work of restoration on a small scale, one soul at a time. The 23rd Psalm delights in the local, detailed work that the Lord undertakes, one soul at a time. Maybe as you think about your own life, your own soul, there are places where there's rust that needs to be cleaned up so that you can be restored to your full potential. The Lord can do that. That's what this psalm says. So the Lord is the one who restores, but what about us? Do we have a part to play? How can we position ourselves so that the Lord will, in fact, restore our soul? In the immediate context of Psalm 23, if we go before and after the line about how the Lord restores our souls, our part is clear. Our part is to be led by the Lord. Listen to these 2 lines again and notice what they have in common. He leads me beside still waters. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. The Lord leads, which means that our part is to be led, to allow the Lord to lead us. It's a very serious question for each of us. Are you willing to be led? If you're not willing to be led, if you want to set your own agenda, then you can't presume on the Lord's restoring work in your life. We're challenged by this psalm to be the kind of people who are willing to be led. That means listening to the shepherd's voice. That means doing what he says. It's when we're willing to be led that we'll find that our souls are restored. We'll be reinvigorated. We'll be refreshed. Let the Lord lead the way, and the Lord will restore your soul. There's a second thing in Psalm 23 I want to linger over this morning. The location of a writer or speaker is very important. Where you are makes a difference in what you have to say. The individual who gives us Psalm 23 is speaking from a very unpromising place. It's the darkest valley, which you can translate as the valley of the shadow of death. Now notice what he says, I walk through the darkest valley. He doesn't go around it, he doesn't hover over it, he walks through it. He isn't snatched from this place of darkness. Now this may seem like a small thing, but it rings true to Christian experience. When a crisis comes, such as the one we're in right now, we Christians don't get a free pass. The pandemic affects all of us, even those who say, the Lord is my shepherd. The crucial thing the psalmist wants us to know is that even then we are not alone. He says that he's accompanied by the Lord himself. He says, you are with me. Sometimes we imagine ourselves saying to the Lord, as a character in a famous TV show would say, beam me up. Wouldn't that be something, to be rescued, to escape from trouble? But it appears that the Lord's usual way with us is to let us continue to walk through the valley. With this difference, we are not alone. Back in 1968, a Broadway musical opened based on a biblical character. It was called Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Funny, sometimes silly, but there's one song that is very serious. It's about the hard times that Joseph faced when he was forced to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And in that song is this line, children of Israel are never alone. How do you like that? Would you still prefer to have the Lord beam you up? The psalmist who gave us Psalm 23 seems to be satisfied with the presence of the Lord because it is a strong and active presence, so adequate, so satisfying that he's able to say, I will fear no evil. The word through is sobering because it means that the Lord doesn't lift us out of the common struggles of life. But the word through is also gospel. It's good news because it means that this is not the end of the road. You do eventually get through it. There is life on the other side. We're hearing a lot these days about when life returns to normal, even though we know that, as others have said, it will be a new normal. Some things will be different. We do long to get through this dark valley. We don't know when that will happen. But we do know this, as Joseph sang in that musical, children of Israel are never alone. And we can add one more line, the final line in Psalm 23, and this word will sustain us. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.